To remove and install the front lower A-arm on your Razor Turbo R, follow these steps. Park the vehicle on a flat level surface and ensure it is in park. Next, remove the wheel from the vehicle. Begin by loosening the lug nuts while the vehicle is on the ground, but do not remove at this time. Then, safely elevate the vehicle. Reference your owner's manual for proper lifting techniques. Once safely elevated, remove and retain the lug nuts and set aside. Then, remove the wheels and set aside. Next, loosen the lower shock fastener and nut. Then, loosen the upper sway bar link fastener and nut. Continue by loosening the lower A-arm fasteners and nuts. Then, loosen the ball joint nut. Next, remove and retain the lower shock fastener and nut. Then, remove and retain the lower A-arm fasteners, washer, and nut. Next, wrap a tie-down strap around the outer portion of the upper A-arm and secure to the front toe area. If the suspension is not supported properly, damage to the tie rod and tie rod boot may occur. Then, remove and retain the upper sway bar link nut and washer. Next, wrap a tie-down strap around the crossbar on the lower A-arm and secure to the front toe area. Pry the arm out of the mounts. Next, loosen the ball joint nut until the end of the ball joint stem is recessed in the nut. Then, strike the ball joint nut to free the ball joint from the wheel hub. Continue by removing and discarding the ball joint nut. Then, lift the ball joint out of the A-arm and remove the arm from the vehicle and the retention straps. Next, inspect the A-arm bushings and pivot tube for damage and wear and replace as necessary. If reusing the A-arm, thoroughly clean with a shop rag before reinstalling. Then, inspect the ball joint and ball joint boot for wear, tears, or damage and replace if necessary. Continue by inspecting the spherical bearing for wear or damage, replace if necessary. Then, inspect the sway bar and sway bar bushings for wear or damage and replace if necessary. Next, remove the A-arm bushings with a flathead screwdriver. And then push out the pivot tube. Inspect the pivot tube and bushings for wear or damage and replace if necessary. Also, inspect the O-rings on the bushings for any wear or damage and replace if necessary. Then, reinsert the pivot tube and reinstall the bushings with the beveled sides out. Next, reinstall the ball joint into the wheel hub and wrap a tie-down strap around the crossbar. Then, install a new ball joint nut onto the ball joint stem. Next, tighten the tie-down strap to raise the A-arm into position. Then, align the lower shock mount with the spherical bearing. Continue by turning the wheel hub to ensure the hub is straight. Then, position the A-arm near the mounts and pry them into the mounts. Next, reinstall the retained front A-arm fastener and washer. And secure with the retained nut. Then, reinstall the retained rear A-arm fastener. Next, remove the tie-down strap from the A-arm crossbar and the front toe area. Then, align the sway bar with the mounting holes and reinstall the retained fastener from the inside. Continue by reinstalling the retained sway bar nut. Next, remove the tie-down strap around the outer portion of the A-arm. Then, reinstall the lower shock mount fastener from the front and secure with the retained nut. Next, torque the A-arm fasteners to specification. Then, torque the sway bar link fastener to specification. Continue by torquing the lower shock mount fastener to specification. Next, counterhold the ball joint stem and tighten the ball joint nut until fully seated to ensure the ball joint boot doesn't twist. Then, turn the wheel hub and torque the ball joint nut to specification. Next, reinstall the wheel on the vehicle and tighten the lug nuts until fully seated. Continue by safely lowering the vehicle until the tires begin to touch the ground. This will help keep the wheel in place when torquing. Once lowered, torque the lug nuts to specification in a crisscross pattern. Finally, lower the vehicle completely. For more information, see your authorized Polaris dealer or visit Polaris.com.